Thank you for being patient. I'd like to call to order the Human Resources Appointments and Equity Committee meeting. Today is Tuesday, March 6, 2018. Council Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Calling the roll, Ms. Brown.
Here.
Mr. Gallagher. Here. Mr. Jones.
Here.
Mr. Miller. Here. Ms. Conwell. Here. We have a quorum.
Excellent. Do we have any public comment related to the agenda?
No, no one has signed in.
All right. And I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the February 27th meeting. Do I have a second? It's been made, motioned, and second. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns? If there are none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All right, excellent. We only have one item on the agenda today. In part, that's why I wanted to make sure the full membership of the committee was here. Council Clerk, will you please read the first item into the record?
Resolution number 2018-0043, confirming the county executive's reappointment of various individuals to serve on the Alcohol, Drug Addiction, and Mental Health Services Board of Cuyahoga County for an unexpired term ending 6/30/2021.
Excellent. And I believe we have, in the absence of our regional director, Mr. Matt Carroll, who will give us a little bit of background on the reappointments and as well as the board. So, Mr. Carroll, the floor is yours.
Morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Of course, the alcohol drug.
Excuse me, Mr. Carroll, can you press the button for me, please? Thank you.
The Adams Board of Cuyahoga County obviously serves a major need in the community. It's over the last, from several years ago, merged from being a mental health organization and separate alcohol and drug organization, and now does it all together. The board appointees, there are board appointees from state and board appointees from the county executive. At this point, I believe there's 16 members of the board, and they serve for 4-year terms generally. The two nominees we have today are previously serving board members. They were state appointees, and they've applied to be the county executive's appointees to continue their service. So they are both being appointed to an unexpired term. So it is a reappointment as they've been on the board, but it's a first appointment as county executive appointment. And we have Dr. Blue and Mr. Snyder. Mr. Snyder, who is here today and be happy to speak to the committee as needed. Both are experienced professionals in the field. Mr. Snyder is an attorney, but has worked in the field for a long time in a sort of volunteer capacity. He had been the chair of the National Alliance for Mental Illness in the aught decade, and has been, I think, sort of a lifelong advocate for mental health issues. Served on the mental health part of the board before it was merged. Dr. Blue also has a lifetime of experience in the field, worked in the Shaker schools for just under 30 years as a school psychologist, and has been I believe started as a board member in 2006. So both are great candidates. We're happy to have them continue their service as being state appointees to county executive appointees. And I believe Mr. Snyder would be willing to say a couple of words if you'd like to hear from him.
Absolutely. Before you step away, I have a question, and I'll open it up to the committee members in case they do as well. So these were originally state appointees, and their terms expired as state appointees, and so the county executive is essentially reappointing them under his authority as members of the board.
That's right, Madam Chair, and the term ends in 2021, so the terms had already started, so they're technically unexpired terms at this point.
Okay, and so while we have no jurisdiction over the state, I'm presuming that those state seats that they formerly held are being filled by someone at the state, or have been filled, or are you certain?
I'm not sure about the process. I assume they will be filled,
Okay.
and I don't know how far along that has gone.
All right, I'll open it up to my colleagues. Councilman Miller.
How many state appointees and how many county appointees are there? And if there's other appointing authorities, tell me who they are and how many.
Through the chair to the councilman, there are just those two appointing authorities, the state and the local county executive. I believe, I'm gonna have to guess at this, there are currently 16 board members. I believe it's 10 and 8. I could be wrong about that. I don't know if the law department can correct me, but I think the county, pardon?
10 and 6.
10 and 6?
Okay.
It's
Or 8 and 8.
I don't think it's 8 and 8. I think
Okay.
the county executive has more. It could be, I think maybe the total is 10 and 8, and there's 2 unfilled positions. But I'd have to really confirm that with you, Councilman.
Okay, fine.
If there are no other questions or concerns or comments from the committee, then we will hear from Mr. Snyder, who is present. And again, Mr. Carroll spoke on behalf of Dr. Blue. So, Mr. Snyder, if you'll come forward, state your name, and give us a little bit of background about yourself and your desire to continue to serve on this board.
Good morning, members of council and Chair Brown. I appreciate the opportunity to appear before you this morning. It's very kind of you to ask me. I want to compliment the staff of this council, who's been very helpful and cooperative in planning my appearance here this morning. I am most appreciative of her efforts in helping in getting me here this morning to be here, and I want to thank her. If I may also, members of council and chair, I'd like to, if I may, just for a moment speak on behalf of my fellow colleague, Dr. Reginald Blue, who, thank you. I have known Dr. Blue since my appointment on the board when it was the predecessor of the Mental Health Board. Dr. Blue is an outstanding individual. He is a psychologist, and he served as the assistant principal at Shaker Heights High School. Very involved with the students, their problems, and educating them. He has also been the director of pupil personnel at the high school. Currently, Dr. Blue serves on our board as the chair of the nominating committee, and he is a member of the Planning and Oversight Committee. And he very recently served and was nominated to be the board's representative on the AIDS Funding Collaborative here in the county. And he was a very active member of that board. And as past chair of the Mental Health Addiction Board of the Adams Board, I was very delighted to have him as a member of our board and as serving on our committees. As to myself, I am a family member, and I must say that as part of the state requirement, one of the persons who serve on the board must be a family member who has an individual family member with a mental illness, and I've had a son. I have a son who is presently having the issues of mental health, and it's been quite a ride over the last decades or so. To give you a little background on myself, I again appreciate your being here and permit me to mention a few things. I received my Bachelor of Arts from The Ohio State University when tuition was quite low. If I were to tell you how much tuition was back then, you probably would not believe it, but it was less expensive than sending me to anywhere else in the country. I'm also a graduate of the Case Western Reserve University School of Law, where I received my Juris Doctorate degree. I have been a president and vice chairman of the Board of Governors of the Alcohol, Drug, and Addiction Mental Health Board of Cuyahoga County. I am past president of Connections, formerly known as Northeast Ohio Health Services, which is a rather significant mental health agency. I was really involved almost at the ground floor when they were in Cleveland Heights. They are now located on Chagrin Boulevard in Beechwood. I am the immediate, well, not the immediate, I was a few years ago the past president of the Board of Governors of NAMI, Ohio, National Alliance of Mental Illness, where I had the opportunity to work with and be partners with the entire state of Ohio boards of NAMI, and meeting people in all walks of life throughout the state and working with them. And I must say that's where I first got to meet our county executive when I lobbied on behalf of the mentally ill, the legislature, when our county executive was a member of that legislature and was so receptive to listening to the problems of those who are disabled. I am a former member of the Board of Trustees of the Weeder Silver Manor Apartments, which is a HUD apartment project for those having mental illness and are mentally challenged. I am no longer on that board, having been on this board now. I'm further the former president of the NAMI Greater Cleveland chapter here in Cuyahoga County. There is on the campus of Case Western Reserve University a structure known as the Magnolia Clubhouse. The Magnolia Clubhouse is a center of psychological rehabilitation which promotes recovery and reintegration into the community of those having mental illness, located on Magnolia Drive at Case Western Reserve University. I was involved in the formulating of the corporation and served as vice president of that. Of course, I could not remain once I got on the board, but it is a fantastic operation, and it just can't tell you how meaningful it's been to those who are challenged. Presently, I am a retired attorney, inactive, but I did serve on the Council of Delegates of the Ohio State Bar Association, representing District 12, and on the Elder Law Committee. I served on the board of Jewish Family Service and St. Joseph's Christian Life Center, which is also known as the Retreat House on 185th and Lakeshore, although now it's no longer operating there. I was on the University Hospital Laurelwood Ethics Committee 16 years ago, and I've been an active advocate for those who are challenged with opiate addiction and mental health disabilities and issues. I thank you for your receipt of my application, and I hope you view it favorably, and thank you for the opportunity, and to your staff for letting me appear here today.
Well, thank you for your willingness to serve. It's quite obvious why the county executive would like to reappoint you to the board. You bring a wealth of knowledge and experience, and I'm certainly grateful for your willingness to serve in this capacity. I also want to take a opportunity, a privilege that you brought to my attention before I turn it over to Ms. Conwell, and acknowledge Ms. Ashley Johnson, who does do the work to make this meeting come together by coordinating the schedules and making sure that the nominees and candidates for appointments are before us. Probably not an easy task with all of the responsibilities and duties that you have to ensure that your scheduling fits according to ours. So I want to thank you, Ms. Johnson, for always making this meeting be what it is, and those who have served before you in this capacity. I will now turn it over to Ms. Conwell as she has a question, followed by Mr. Jones, and we'll move from there.
Through the chair to Mr. Snyder, why are you changing your appointment from state appointed to county?
It's a passion to serve, Councilwoman. I have that passion. It's never left me. I am term limited by state law and cannot continue to serve. So I reapplied to the county executive for the honor and privilege.
So what is the term limit for the state appointment?
8 years, 2 terms.
2 terms.
Two terms.
Okay. Is your oversight committee, you referred when you were talking about Dr. Blue, is your oversight committee the same as finance committee?
No.
Okay. Can you share what the roles and responsibilities of the oversight committee is?
I'm not sure we have what's called an oversight committee.
Okay, I thought you referred to that when you were talking about Dr. Blue. You said he served on the oversight committee.
Let me
I
get
could
that
be
one
wrong.
out. Thank you. Oh, the planning, the Planning and Oversight Committee. I'm
Planning,
sorry.
okay.
Yeah, yes. The Planning and Oversight Committee is a very active committee which plans future projects and tries to oversee their completion and the results that come out of these projects. And he was very involved in that.
Okay, so the planning process could include some additional funding for certain projects?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what do you, and just to go off on the topic of Magnolia Clubhouse, I used to have the privilege to work next door.
Oh, the
I
Institute
want to
of
say, was
Cleveland.
it Bridgeway?
Oh, it was Bridgeway.
Bridgeway.
Yeah.
But I think it was called something before it turned to
Hope
Bridgeway.
House. Hope.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So worked in conjunction in 2001. So in 2001, it was just two
Right.
mansions that sat next to one another. Now they're joined. It is a campus for
Absolutely.
people with abilities to really, and so I just kudos to that.
Yeah.
I work there and they always, it's around the corner from where I live now, and they're
Oh.
always bugging me to come back. So I try to go and every now and then. But last question being, what do you think it will take to have a separate mental health and drug addiction levy?
You're hitting something that's been a pet project of mine for a long time, Madam Councilwoman. It will take a coordination of working with this council, of course, the county executive, but we have to work with our community partners. The need is overwhelming for a separate dedicated levy. And if we may involve the business community, the school community, the college community, labor community, and every factor involved in medicine that could help us and point to the reasons we need it, and also so that the taxpayers of the county will realize the necessity for it. Our neighboring community, Geauga County, passed by 17% vote, an increase in their dedicated levy. Our neighboring county, Summit County has that, Franklin County has it, Hamilton County has it. We are the only county really of a major that doesn't have it. And, but we would need your support, and we would have to show not only the necessity for such a dedicated levy, but that it won't affect the pocketbook of our taxpayers and a loss of services from the human services levy. And we realize that it would be a job we would have to undertake.
And Mr. Snyder, can you offline share that list with my email
Oh, sure.
of the people that you've
Sure.
worked with and talked to?
Okay, I'd be happy to. And I'm most appreciative of your inquiry on that.
Thank you.
Mr. Jones,
Thank you.
were you next?
Oh, yes.
And Councilwoman Conwell answered, my question would have been, what do you think some of our greatest challenges are to come? And it sounds like this might be one of them.
Well, the opiate crisis, of course, is a major outstanding crisis that is engulfing the entire country, but in particular the state of Ohio and Cuyahoga County. It knows no boundary, no religion, no ethnic background. Everybody is being affected by it. But at the same time, Councilman Jones, the individuals sustaining mental illness are also suffering and involved in what we understand to be significant problems here. So that is a big area. We need to substantiate the need for the faith-based community to help us in organizing people so that they get the help they need. And we at our board have done what we think has been a pretty good job in getting the faith-based community to come and get involved in getting their congregations and getting people to talk about the problems that are out there. Another area, Councilman, if I may go on, is the criminal justice system. The criminal justice system houses so many people with mental illness and opiate and addiction and alcohol problems that it has become a leading depository, I might say, of our citizens. And we need to focus an area of relief in that area. So that is a major problem. Diversion from those who are afflicted with mental illness, drug addiction, alcohol, and opiate need to be diverted into help. And those are areas of funding that are needed. I think I could go on with other areas, but
So, Mr. Snyder, are you saying that the mental health, the criminal justice system is housed with many who are there with mental illnesses
Yes.
as opposed to just?
yeah, 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 oh, yeah. We find, as an example, if I may say, there was an individual in Cleveland Heights who walked into the middle of the street and sat down, had a mental illness problem, mental health issues, and this was before we had CIT training, but that person was taken to the criminal justice system rather than care is what that person needed. And this is why we have to go through a diversion programs and need funding for people who may have emotional breakdowns but need diversion.
If you could
help me with my
explain what
ignorance
CIT for us, we're not familiar with
Oh,
the
I'm
CIT.
sorry.
That's okay.
CIT is training for police officers and also for first responders, so that they have backgrounds of mental health and drug issues and opiate issues and alcohol issues, so that when a person is mentally or having a seizure of some sort, they aren't brought into the criminal justice, they get the help that they need. And I'm proud to say that the city of Cleveland and many of the county municipal police departments and EMS and the fire departments have been responsive and educated their particular officers and worked with us in helping that. It's been very good, very good.
How does this tie into the consent decree that Cleveland?
Good point. The consent decree, when the U.S. Department of Justice saw that the Adams Board and you, the county, had been involved in doing the CIT training, that was a plus. And it continues to be a plus, and that we have been using funding to expand that. Before, I might add, it was a voluntary program for the police departments. They couldn't require the police or the fire to go into CIT training. Crisis intervention is what it stands for. They couldn't require them. Under the consent decree, it's more of a recommendation that they should do it, and most of them are doing it. So I might say that has been a very effective part of the consent decree.
To come back to your earlier point about the mental health in the criminal justice system, how do you quantify or qualify what our drug court does?
Great. Of our first of all, we have the Court of Common Pleas. Judge Mattia and Judge Sonnenberg of the Court of Common Pleas have been very, very involved in this diversion program. So for nonviolent offenders who are involved, they have been instrumental in diverting them into treatment programs. And our agencies, such as Recovery Resources and Northeast Ohio, not Northeast, Connections and the Far West Mental, and forgive me, I can't think of the one on the east side. It's but they have been diverting from the courts to these agencies for treatment programs, and they come back to the courts, and most are graduates and are certified to be free of their problems, and that it's been a very successful program. The juvenile court, it's worked to an extent, but not to the extent of the Court of Common Pleas.
Is the drug court sufficient? Is there, what more do you see, what needs to be done in your estimation to begin to address that, I think, important point you made about the level of mental illness that's in our criminal justice system. What do you see as the
Well,
strategy or?
what came first, the chicken or the egg? It's in the Justice Center jail. We do have treating and visiting physicians, psychologists, psychiatrists, social workers that work with them, medication dispensing that goes on there. But there's not enough money to provide, to have this type of service that these individuals need. We've been fortunate under the Obamacare. Mental health has been an issue that was covered under Obamacare. Now, we are very concerned that mental health will not be covered, nor will certain areas of opiate addiction because of the relentless assault that's taking on the national scene against the Affordable Care Act. And we're concerned we're going to lose funding for coverage for the mentally ill and those who are suffering from drugs as a result of this continued problem with the with Congress, what they're going to do with that. So we need funding.
My last question, can you speak to the number of board members that you serve with? Is it the number 16? And
Yeah, it's
18.
It's 18. It's 18. And how many are? 15 right now. And how many are in the state? Do you remember? 10 county and 8 state.
Gotcha. Great. And how many vacancies at the moment?
3.
And we're seeking to fill 2 today. 2 of those 3.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns from the committee? Yes, I have questions. Councilman Miller.
Madam Chair, Mr. Snyder, is there any term limit on how many county appointments you can receive?
Yeah, I believe so. It's good, the same. It's
The same.
It's
So-
the same.
And does the unexpired term count as one of the 2, or does that not count? Because you're not doing a whole term, you're filling a portion of it. Does
Right.
that-
Whatever I serve, I believe I end at the term, isn't it? In 2021, it would be the end of my term. This is 18, yeah, it would be 3.5 years.
So, so could you receive that term and one more county appointment?
At my age, I rather doubt it.
You doubt it, okay.
I just recently passed a significant birthday. A year ago, I was 80, and I don't believe it's going to happen that in 4 years I will be reapplying.
Well, Madam Chair, to Mr. Snyder, I would just bring to your attention that Robert Madison came in just a couple months ago applying to be reappointed to some board, and he's like 93.
Oh,
But we're delighted for your service, and I would have brought up about the mental health diversion, but you brought that up and covered it well. I agree that's extremely important area, and I think that something like half of the people that are in the county jail have either mental health or addiction problems. So it's a very, very high number. So that's extremely important. And so I wish you well and support your application. Thank you.
thank you so much.
I would caution your wanting to go out and get another levy separate from, while true, some of these counties have separate voted upon taxes or levies. Nobody in Ohio does what we do with our HHS levy. Nobody.
Yeah.
Nobody serves what we do. So it's not easy to point fingers and say they have it. They don't touch what we do. And then the challenge that you get are other individual groups within the Adams Board, and it's like, well, I want mine, and I want mine, and since we've been here, that's what we've heard, and those have not been met with any semblance of wanting to do that. But my thing is that our great challenge right before us, and I don't think anybody sees it, and Plain Dealer just did a huge expose on it, is the silver tsunami, which you are part of, and I am the back end of. And that's being completely ignored in Cuyahoga County, and I'll just never get off of that and never understand that. Our friends at City Council just yesterday, in a small way, started moving towards helping seniors and maintaining their housing. And but my question to you is not the problem that we have with mental illness right now aren't we part of the problem in that we shut down all these hospitals, we closed off all these opportunities to, and really it was kind of to me, was kind of like, oh, you went to a mental hospital and that was a bad thing. And that's why I think they kind of got rid of them. And if anything, we need beds and a mental hospital to place people. And our jail, without question, is the greatest provider of mental health in Cuyahoga County, at least as far as I could see, as far as daily help. And that's not the place to do it. Behind bars is not the place to treat these folks. So aren't we part of the problem in that because of the stigma and possibly cost, we moved away from that model? Shouldn't we move back to that model? Because let's face it, it worked.
Yeah.
Is that not more of a reasonable maneuver, not by the county, but by the state, to get involved in this and to bring us back to that?
Thank you, Councilman Gallagher. I agree. Much of everything you've said is very accurate. I might point out that when Governor Strickland was the governor of Ohio, we were allocated funding to build a hospital on Cedar behind Cleveland Clinic.
Right. That was when we first started.
That's right. And he pulled it away. We were going to have one right here.
He pulled that away?
Yes, he did.
Okay. Because as a Republican, I speak highly of him because of, he actually paid attention to Northeast Ohio,
Yes,
much
yes.
unlike just about every other governor we've had.
Yeah, he pulled
And yeah, I wondered what happened with that.
Yeah, and all mental health involvement is hospitalization for a state hospital. For a state hospital, if you have a problem and you need to be confined and you have no assets, you will go to Summit County, and people have to visit. If
Right.
you want to visit a family
I
member,
recall that.
Yeah, and that's where Mayor Jackson, everybody lobbied the state to please. It was a beautiful tie-in with the Cleveland Clinic right behind it.
Right.
And he pulled the fund, and that's what happened.
They provided the land. Wasn't there it
Yes.
was some bogus, the land was banned?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it was something about the.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they can put a
Contamination.
juvenile justice center on the most toxic site in the state of Ohio. See, I hate government, and I don't even know, and it's really crazy. But you know what? There's nothing that you said that I disagree with, and I couldn't, or I'd have a problem mentally if I did. But there seems to me to be a solution here, and it has to be on the state side, with input and buy-in and skin in the game from the county and surrounding suburban areas as well as Cleveland. We've all got to do this, and the problem is there, the silver tsunami is there, these things are facing us. It's like the national debt. It's going to blow up. The state of Ohio is encouraging seniors to stay here, yet not preparing for their help down the road that they're going to need. So it's so maddening to me that we do this, and I wish you well, but I would stay away from a separate levy because you will find yourself in a cat fight that you can't imagine with some other very needing people and organizations. But there is a way out of it, and I think it's through the state. So anything we could do, I would be grateful and willing to help. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Gallagher. You know, and I may be overstepping or opening up a potential can of worms here, but one of the things that I requested as we were partnering with Metro Health is that we give some consideration as they're undergoing their transformation project to include some sort of wing or at least a floor dedicated to the mental health population. That was something Dr. Boutros was in support of.
Yep.
The other thing that I think would be people might not be as receptive to is the potential with the Justice Center being rebuilt, moved, or whatever that potential situation could be. And while we don't want to incarcerate those that are that have mental health issues, but there may be some way to integrate, again, a similar concept where they're not incarcerated behind bars, but at least have some semblance of support or residency within the new building that would be solely dedicated to rehabilitating those with mental health issues. And that's just my thinking. So I think we have some potential opportunities in the future down the road relative to that, outside of, again, introducing maybe an additional tax. And we just need to be more thoughtful and thinking creatively outside of the box relative to the population. Yeah. The greater concern that I have relative to those ideas that I just threw out there was that the population, the capacity, I have no idea what that is potentially. And so that is where I think we run into the greatest obstacles or challenges, if you will, is making sure that we have enough space to accommodate those who would that would have the most benefit from such a resolution, if you will. So that's just my little 2 cents. That's my insight. I welcome your feedback if you have any relative to those two concepts that I just shared.
Thank you, Chairperson Brown. The only thing I would add, I agree with everything you just described, but Cuyahoga County is the recipient of a number of incarcerated or recently incarcerated convicted people, and they choose to come to Cuyahoga County because of the services that are here. And therefore, we have to get residences for these people to live in. They're still citizens. They've served their time. They have mental health issues, no funds, and we get probably for the whole state of Ohio. I remember Bill Denahan, our former chief who retired last summer. Bill Denahan would always describe that we got almost a third, just in Cuyahoga County, of returning incarcerated individuals who needed treatment, housing, and employment. And 2/3 went to the rest of the state. I mean, here our county had to support that with funding from our levies. So this ties in with what you just described, Council President, Chairperson Brown. And we have to figure out how to handle this. This is an issue for our board that we're involved in every day.
Thank you very much. Councilman Miller, yes.
Just a quick comment. I think we have to bring the rest of the state up to the same level of service for reentry so that there isn't such a strong draw.
That ties in with Councilperson Gallagher has just described exactly it. We go down and we lobby frequently. We go down from our board. I know NAMI does, many of the organizations throughout the state. We lobby, but it's not been a friendly legislature for the type of services we provide.
Well, I again want to thank you. If there are no further questions, comments, or concerns from the committee, I'll ask Mr. Carroll if this needs to be moved before the council under second reading suspension. Okay, that was an affirmative, so I'll make the motion to move this before the full body of the council under second reading suspension. Do I have a second? It's been moved in second. If there are no questions, comments, or concerns, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you for your insights, your knowledge, your wisdom, experience, and just your willingness to serve in this capacity. I think we learned a lot, and I think we've also opened up the floor for future ideas, so
Thank you very much for your consideration.
thank you. All right, is there any miscellaneous business from the committee? There being none, Council Clerk, is there any public comment related, unrelated?
No, no one has signed in.
All right, then this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for your time and attention. Have a great day.